1st to 7th August is World Breastfeeding Week, and we at RevSportz are celebrating this entire month as Breastfeeding Month because we feel there is need for a prolonged and continuous discussion on breastfeeding because breastfeeding is a very important issue now, and the good part is that there is an increasing conversation on this topic in the public domain now, which was not the case even 8 years before when I became a mother. And we have athletes like Sania Mirza who have spoken openly about their experiences of motherhood and breastfeeding. And breastfeeding is very important. We all know that because it's like the child's first vaccine. And while breastfeeding is very organic to our culture, there is not such an open conversation about it, or there wasn't for a very long time. But the good thing is that now people are openly talking about it because doctors have made us aware about the benefits of breastfeeding. It leads to larger development of the baby's brain. It promotes a greater bond between the child and the mother. And while we are talking about the benefits of breastfeeding, we also need to talk about the issues around breastfeeding which women don't openly confront, which is, fear of breastfeeding, how we position the baby, how the mother should position herself. So these are issues that are increasingly being talked about in the public domain. And we have athletes like Deepika Pallikal, for instance, who has become mother to twins only last year, and she has come back to win the Commonwealth Games bronze in the mixed category. So please listen here to Sania Mirza, where she talks very bravely about her experience of becoming a mother and how her baby was getting up 7 to 8 times in the night, and how she dealt with the whole experience. Please listen here.
Physically, of course, it was difficult. I mean, that's, a no-brainer because of, losing the weight is only one part of what you're trying to do. Then you have to get strong again. And then you have to train to become a professional athlete all over again and teach your body what to do again. And then you have to try to win and be the best and be the best version of yourself. So it was definitely very hard, but also it was emotionally hard because thankfully I had no postpartum, which was great. And I think one of the reasons for that was because I started exercise really early after I had a son. And I can't say this enough, women need to, right after they have a child, a couple of weeks later, whenever their body is ready, they need to go, because the hormones that are released, it just makes you so happy. You feel worthwhile. You don't feel like your existence is only because of the child. You still accept because everything becomes about the child so when the child is born, the mother is born, but everybody forgets the mother and everything's about the child. So those 2 hours were my sanity. They were my space where I used to go, I used to work out. So I think those kind of things were difficult to deal with emotionally as well. You're going through a lot of hormonal changes. You're seeing your body change. There are a lot of things. And then the demands of a newborn, waking up like 8 times a night, and, you're feeding, and, I myself was feeding. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And definitely, I think it was probably the hardest thing to do.
That was Sania Mirza speaking to us. And please listen here to 2 doctors who gave us some medical facts about breastfeeding.
Hi, I'm Dr. Atul Ganatra, Senior Gynecologist at the Fortis Hospital, Director, Progeny IVF Center and Clinic for Women, Director, Ganatra Nursing Home. There are a lot of mothers and children who are not fortunate enough to get breast milk. That is, the mothers cannot breastfeed and the babies cannot get the breast milk. The simplest incidence and the most common one is the COVID infection. Many women who are in the ICU with COVID infection, women with HIV, don't breastfeed their children. I think breast milk banking is such an important part. So women who are working, we tell them, feed the child in the morning, feed the child at night, and in between, express your breast milk in steel containers which are boiled, label it by date and time, and you can give the baby that same milk for about 24 hours once you bring it back to the room temperature. Do not boil that milk. So 2 or 3 feeds can be given like that to the children once you express the breast milk and keep them. And for those who have excess breast milk, can supply it to breast milk banks like the Sion Hospital, because a lot of mothers who cannot breastfeed and are in the ICU can take benefit of that breast milk. And babies who are in the NICU who are premature, instead of giving them top feeds, instead of giving them powdered milk, this breast milk can be used for these premature infants. They hardly get any infection, they hardly get any what can I say, a stomach upset with the breast milk that has been provided even from a breast milk bank. In our older generation, in our villages, we still see one woman feeding the other woman's child if that woman is not feeling well or has fever or tuberculosis or other types of infections. So it's not uncommon in our villages as of now. And I think, to sum it up, I would say it is just Amrit for the child. Another very important point is the oxytocin hormone that is released. That oxytocin hormones brings about the uterus involution, reduces the incidence of post-delivery bleeding and postpartum hemorrhage also. That are the advantages of breastfeeding to the mother and the child.
50 million people in India breastfeed every day. And of this, 6 billion people have concerns regarding their lactation, about underfeeding, especially during the first 2 weeks after the delivery. There are many reasons for which this can happen, the commonest being hypothyroidism, premature birth, cesarean section, smokers, obesity, low birth weight, preterm delivery, and the fear of feeding the baby. So 41% struggle with breastfeeding after an emergency cesarean section. This is a fact. And 82% of women with premature deliveries are associated with low volume of milk production and therefore delayed onset of lactation. So in low birth weight, the incidence rate of lactation was found to be only about 58% of the times. So suboptimal breastfeeding results in 45% of the neonatal infections, deaths, 30% of diarrheal deaths, and 18% of acute respiratory infection and deaths under the 5 years of age. So breastfeeding acts as the baby's first vaccine. Many diseases produce their antibodies which crosses the placenta and help the baby in fighting against the infection.